Since the first ever appearance, the Jailer has been a complete mystery, as he is, after all, a brand new character quite recently introduced. However, finally, as 9.1 is out, we got some half-concrete information on what exactly is going on with the Shadowlands. This entire mystery is no longer so mysterious, so speculating on his purpose right now isn't really just a shot in the dark. So, what if the Jailer isn't really the bad guy, and what exactly are his plans? Brought to you by Gamivo. Use my link to get Shadowlands in game time cheaper as well as any other game. Use code DORON for an additional discount. Since the beginning, as the Shadowlands were introduced, even before the expansion was out, we did get some hints on what exactly the Jailer is doing, what is his motive. We know that he is after the Sepulchre. He wants to reach the Arbiter and essentially break reality itself, break the machine of death. Now, of course, as we got that information, all these were just vague concepts that all of us have just been taking wild guesses on. It didn't really make all that much sense. As the expansion was released, we saw that Runecarver memory scene where he talks about searching for the Seeker that the first one sought to hide, and he also mentioned how death is coming for our World Soul, which ultimately made this entire matter even more confusing. At the same time, Sylvanas has been talking about how we don't really have free will and how essentially we're all just living in a lie, and that she is doing pretty much all this for the good of us all. Now, at the time, none of this made any sense, as, you know, this Jailer guy is in the mob, he's constantly torturing people, his realm is literally hell itself, and he's behind most evil things that happened on Azeroth within the past few decades. So, in what way is this guy actually fighting for anything other than evil itself? How could he possibly be good and working to bring free will back for all of us mortals? Well, with some of the brand new information from the Broker Dungeon to Zavesh, things are starting to make at least a little bit more sense. Now, I made a separate video on this if you want to get the full scoop of the information and all the details and everything we recently learned, but here is a very quick summary. Through the sources of the Broker, which I can't say is 100% facts, but it does seem trustworthy, we learned that there are 7 forces out in the universe. We already knew about the 6th, since we got the cosmological chart from the Chronicle book, but the 7th, which is more than likely the first ones, is a brand new concept that we just learned about. It does seem like most of the info we got from the Chronicle is heavily biased from a Titan perspective, and this new broken information is telling a bit of a different side of the story. Apparently, these 6 forces existed and were in opposition to one another, creating a significant imbalance within the cosmos. So the first ones came in and they essentially ordered them into that nice and neat little chart where everything is just perfectly aligned. What this means for us is that the first ones set up a structure. So, for example, they made it so that the mortal planes perfectly syncs up with death so they can feed anima to the realm. At the same time, with everyone dying, it makes sure that there is no overpopulation, lowering the risk of all the resources being used up. Additionally, it also seems like they set up chaotic forces to cause chaos, while the Titans seem to be ordering them. So it's like you have one party that causes a mess constantly, and the other is just cleaning it up, and it is just an endless circle. Of course, this isn't 100% confirmed, but to me, it just seems like an endless cycle in which all these forces were, and still are, just boxed in. This would perfectly explain what Sylvanas meant by saying that we never had free will. Essentially, the first ones just bound us all to go to the Shadowlands, to fill it with anima, and to serve whatever purpose the Arbiter decides, and ultimately to just fuel this machinery. At the same time, it also boxed in the forces of death and the Jailer, so that they're just operating within their own small realm and they don't cause chaos to other also ordered realms. Now, the Jailer has been trying to find this Sepulchre, which honestly is just another word for a tomb, which from all the information thus far seems to be critical to this entire mechanism. It really seems like it is the engine of this universe-altering machinery, and once someone finds it, I think it will be possible to reverse this this mechanism, at its core, it might just be the most important thing in the cosmos. This might also be the reason why the jailer is imprisoned, as the Eternal Ones said he demanded forbidden knowledge, which forced his family to imprison him within the Maw. So it is possible that this ordering of the First Ones happened so long ago, even before the jailer was imprisoned. I'm guessing after a while, jailer started to get curious. He realized that he has been boxed in all along and that he's just playing in this little First One cage. So he attempted to learn how to break out of this box, and the Eternal Ones just put him in a prison and called him a betrayer. From all this information thus far, I think that is the jailer's ultimate goal. He wants to get back to the original state of things, when the 6 forces existed without the interference of the 7th one, the First Ones, aka he wants to get back to the primal state of things. Now, this would be incredibly hard to imagine, as this First One forced existence is all that we had ever known, so anyone going against it might seem evil because they can't see out of the box. It is really hard to imagine what the universe was like before if life didn't go into death and the realms weren't connected. Were all the mortals immortals, and how did that work exactly? Did death just invade other realms and steal anima to power itself? I feel like that might just be the case. All the realms were kinda fending for themselves and eating at each other, so the First Ones enforced a balance so that life could give anima to death and no one would even know about it, which is why it is such a guarded secret. Beings of life just got used to being mortal, and death just knew they would get anima from mortals, so they didn't even bother or think to expand out of the Shadowlands. Well, if that is the case, I think the jailer wants to get back to what it was long ago. He wants to break this box, and he wants to expand death as a force as it used to be long ago. So technically, from our mortal perspective, he might just be evil, because if death wants to expand, I think it's going to start taking our anima by force, but at the same time, we won't automatically go to the Shadowlands. However, objectively, I don't think the jailer would be evil, as that would be the natural state of the universe. You can't really call a wild animal evil because it hunts and murders others. That is just its nature. Same thing could be said for Soval and the Death Force. So while this First One mechanism is incredibly intriguing, I think it might be worth fighting for to keep it, because if all the forces get loose, I think us mortals are going to have a big problem on our hands. However, at the same time, maybe we will also benefit from this mechanism breaking, because at this point, we can only speculate what existence was like before the First Ones. It is also possible that we're just slaves to the First Ones, and that they're pulling all the strings, and that their balance that they're enforcing may not really be balanced in the objective sense, but just balanced for them, where they reap all the benefits, and all of us just serve as fuel for whatever is their purpose. Thank you for watching. Check out all the new First One information by clicking on the screen, and check out the Nonce Academy for videos on real-world history and science. See you next time.